Today I'm going to talk about something that I still don't have the best personal grasp on or best way of communicating however much I do grasp it. But again, that's why we do these things. It's basically the whole principle of being one with everything, as they call it. We feel intuitively like we are just one limited human being, and the barrier of what we are is our human body. That is, if we even think about really where we draw that boundary of where we are, of what constitutes us. A lot of us don't even do that. I can tell you I did not for the first 23 or so years of my life, because it just feels so intuitively obvious that we are just this human body, this small human self. That is our experience if we don't bother to question it. I think it also somewhat has to do with, believe it or not, indoctrination by the people around us. People telling us that we are just this one single human individual, and that is our pure, hard and fast limitation. Then when you start to do, a little bit of sort of sensory work, it starts feeling like, I think what Alan Watts called the eye behind the eyes, like you're some interesting, weird little presence that's trapped within the confines of your skull, that lives behind your eyes and between your ears. That's just what sort of natural sensation will tell you, is I am this strange skull figure. David Bohm had a theory about the universe. I don't believe that it was strictly his, but it was one that he very strongly articulated. And David Bohm was a genius, quantum physicist, whose work I read and I take in, I think maybe a quarter to a third of what he's saying, but that quarter to a third that I do understand just blows my mind. But he had the universal holographic theory, which was that the universe behaves like a strip of holographic film, where in a whole strip, it projects one image. So if you have a holograph of an apple, and you have the entire strip of film altogether, it projects one apple. Well, if you strip that holographic film in half, then over here you will get a smaller apple, and over here you will get a smaller apple. Each portion of the holographic film still contains the entire image that it is projecting. And if you chop it up into 1,000,000 pieces, you'll have 1,000,000 holographs, each containing an entire apple. And he proposes that the universe is much the same way, where any small portion of the universe contains information about the entire image. Now that seems pretty inarguable in some ways, because if you think of all of us as a small portion of this big holographic film that we call the universe, obviously we all have some information about the universe in our direct experience. But do we contain the entire thing? That's the real question, where you start getting you start getting anxious and unsure. Do I, my small little piece of the universe, contain the entire universe? It's a little anxiety-inducing, just being completely real, to think about, am I really just a piece of some enormous phenomenon that's going on? Or on the other end of things, am I doing everything? And again, going back to Alan Watts, he said, well, the reality is that both things are true. Because you are a part of what is called reality. And you don't have any choice in that matter. You are reality. And at the same time, you are creating the universe through perception. You are creating everything simply by perceiving it. Ken Wilber, in a book called No Boundary, illustrates his topic beautifully in just the first chapter or two, which is the real question of where exactly do I draw the boundary of what I consider myself. I could say that it's my physical body, but, I can lose pieces of my physical body, not to get grotesque or anything, and I still remain, as I say it. If I become an amputee, I don't cease existing, even though I considered whatever left my body as part of me to begin with. Do I draw the boundary at my personality or my general psyche? No, because that stuff changes all the time. So have I ceased being by virtue of the fact that that stuff changed? These are not easy questions. They don't have any easy answers to them. And they require a lot of sitting down and really doing a lot of contemplation on them. The extent of the contemplation, I don't think I have even done to a sufficient degree, if I'm being totally honest with myself. The thing is, though, I don't need definitive answers. They come to you, I think, sort of in the process, over a long lifetime of doing this work of contemplating. But the important thing is that we just keep asking another question. If you're in doubt about something, ask another question. The fact that it's even worth me asking, where do I put a boundary on what I consider myself, means that it's not as hard and fast and easy to define as one would believe when they grow up in this standard existence of being human. It's always worth asking another question. Another thing that Ken Wilber says that blows my mind is we can think of, I'm looking at a tree right now. I actually am. It seems that there are three things going on. There is a perceiver, there is a perceived thing, which is the tree, and then there is the perception of the tree. If I can't draw any boundary on what I am, and I can't draw any boundary on the hard and fast limitations of the tree, maybe there's not any perceiver or perceived thing. Maybe there's just the experience of perception. If all boundaries of what constitutes me and the hard limits to where I'm here but I'm not here, if those dissolve, perhaps I am merely this entire blooming experience in this bubble of consciousness that I have access to. Maybe I'm not a small figure with this consciousness. Maybe I'm just all of the consciousness going on itself. Maybe that's the true nature of being one with everything. I don't claim to have knowledge of whether there is or is not an objective world. And I don't need to kind of claim that sort of knowledge. It's something worth, again, asking about, but I'm not here to say that there's no objective world. I'm just saying that none of us human beings with our perception have any experience of an objective world preceding our consciousness of it. And it's just worth asking the question, does the world even exist without this consciousness? These are a bunch of big questions that are making me anxious. But in a delightful way, that means I'm on to something. But I'll end the video with a lighter question of what is your favorite Jolly Rancher flavor? I like grape and green apple.